Hello students, welcome you all. Now, as I have pretty much explained you all the basics of quadratic equation in the introduction video, now I will simply jump into the questions here. So here you can see the first question is, check whether the following are quadratic equations or not. So, equation is given to you and you have to simply check out whether the given equation is a quadratic equation or not. And for that, first of all, you have to take a look at the standard format of a quadratic equation, and that is ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0. Now the first thing you have to notice is that the right hand side is always equal to 0. Now further, when you move into the question here, you have to first simplify the question, and after that, when you have reached to the resultant equation, you have to check out whether in the resultant equation that you have achieved, the highest power is 2 or not. So if the highest power is 2, then the given equation is a quadratic equation, else not. So for that, first of all, you have to simplify this given equation, and for that you have to move this right hand side term over to left hand side, so as you can get the right hand side equal to 0. So if I just take a look at the left hand side, there was x plus 1 whole square. Now this positive value will become negative after moving to the left hand side, so that will be 2 bracket x minus 3. So further, you have to simplify it. If I just take a look over this first term here, so that resembles a plus b whole square. Now you all know that a plus b whole square is solved by a square plus b square plus 2ab. Now I will simply apply this formula over to this. So you can see here, at the place of a there is x, and at the place of b there is 1. So if I just solve this, that will be a square plus b square plus 2ab, that means 2 into a, what is it? That is x, into b, that is 1. Now further, you have to simplify this. You have to multiply 2 with both the bracket values. So minus 2 cross x is minus 2x, and minus 2 cross minus 3 will be simply plus 6 equal to 0. Now further, you have to open the square here, so the x square will be x square. Now 1 square is 1 cross 1, that is 1. Now multiply these values, so 2 cross x is 2x, now 2x cross 1 is 2x. Now further, I will write these values as it is, equal to 0. Now I will take a look at the like terms here. So first, coming to the square value, there is only one square value. So let me just write it as it is. Now further, take a look at the linear values, that is power 1 values. So there are 2. If I just solve these, so you can see here they will cancel out. So further, if I just take a look at the constant terms here, so 6 plus 1, that will be 7, equal to 0. Now I have achieved to this by simplifying this. Now further, I will check out that the highest power is 2 here and the right hand side is 0. So this resembles the standard quadratic equation. So this is a quadratic equation. That's all. So students, now I have taken a similar kind of question for you, so it can be easy for you to solve these kind of questions. Now again, I will check out whether the given equation is a quadratic equation or not. And for that, always remember 2 things. The first is, make the right hand side 0, and after simplifying the given equation, check whether in the final resultant equation that you have achieved, the highest power is 2 or not. Now if 2, then it's a quadratic equation, and if not, then not. So further, what I will do is, whatever is in the right hand side, just transfer it over to the left hand side and make the right hand side 0. So you can see in the left hand side there was x plus 2 whole cube. Now this positive term will become negative after coming on the left hand side. So that will be 2x, x squared plus 1. Now just moving faster here, you can see this is the resembling form a plus b whole cube. Now you all know that a plus b whole cube is solved by a cube plus 3a square b plus 3ab square plus b cube. Now what I will do is simply apply this formula over to this. So you can see at the place of a there is x, and at the place of b there is 2. Now if I just solve this by this formula, you can see the first step is a cube, so that will be x cube. Now further, there is 3a square b, so that is 3 into a square. So what is a? That is x square into b, that is 2. Now further, 3ab square, so that will be 3 into a. What is a? That is x into b square. So that will be 2 square. Getting my point? Now further there's b cube. So that will be 2 cube. Now you can see I have opened the cube here. So further you have to simply solve this, multiply this 2x with both the bracket values. So that will be minus 2x cross x squared. Now you can see the power will add on. 1 plus 2 will be 3. So minus 2x into x squared will be minus 2x cubed. Now further if I just multiply 2x with 1, so that will be minus 2x equals to 0. Now this is the opening of this here. Now further I will open the brackets here. So that will be x cubed. Now further you can see if I multiply these three, so 3 to the 6. 6 into x squared is 6x squared simply. Now further if I multiply this, so 3 into 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. 4 into 3, 12. 12 cross x is 12x. Getting my point? Now further 2 cube is 2 cross 2 cross 2, that is 8. Now you will simply write these as it is. So now what I will do is simply check out the like terms here. So for that, first I will take a look at the cube values. So there's 2 cube values you can see here. So if I just subtract x cube from 2x cube, that will be minus x cube, as in larger values of negative here. Now further take a look at the square values. So here you can see there is only one square value, that will be as it is. Now further take a look at the linear values here. So there are 2 values here. So plus minus minus. So if I just subtract 2x from 12x, there will be 10x. Getting my point? Now further take a look at the constant term here. So here's only one constant term. Let me just write as it is. Now you can see here I have reached to the resultant equation after simplifying this. Now what you have to do is simply check out that the highest power is 2 or not. So here the highest power is 3. So this is not a quadratic equation. As you can see that in a standard quadratic equation, the highest power should have to be 2. So this is not a quadratic equation. That's all. So students, now I'm taking the last example of these type of questions in which you have to simply check whether the given equation is a quadratic equation or not. Then I will move further to the next type of questions. Now again, here's the equation given to you and you have to simply check whether this equation is a quadratic equation or not. And you all know you have to simply first transfer this right hand side term over to the left hand side. Now after transferring this term over to the left hand side, the right hand side will become 0. So you can see here, first let me write this left hand side here. That will be x cubed minus 4x squared minus x plus 1. Now this positive term will become negative after moving to the left hand side. So that will be minus bracket x minus 2 whole cube. Getting my point? Now the next step is to simplify this left hand side. So first let me write that as it is. That is x cubed minus 4x squared minus x plus 1. Now this minus sign. Now what I will do is simply open this a minus b whole cube structure. So what is a minus b whole cube? You all know that a minus b whole cube is a cube minus 3a square b plus 3ab square minus b cube. Now what I will do is simply apply this formula over to this. So you can see here that at the place of a there is x and at the place of b there is 2. So if I open this, that will be a cube. That means in the bracket x cube. Now further minus 3a square b. So that will be minus 3 into a square. What is a? That is x square. Into b, that is 2. Now further is plus 3ab square. So that will be plus 3 into a. What is a? That is x into b square. So that will be 2 square. Now further here is minus b cube. So minus b cube means minus 2 cube. Got it? Equal to 0. Now next step is I have to simplify this again. So first let me write this as it is. So that will be my x cube minus 4x squared minus x plus 1. Now let me open the bracket here. So this will be x cube. Now if I just multiply these, so there will be 3 cross 2, that is 6. 6 into x squared will be 6x squared. Now further if I multiply these, so 3 into 2 squared. Now 2 squared is 4. 4 into 3, 12. 12 cross x will be 12x. Now further 2 cube is 2 cross 2 cross 2, that is 8. So equal to 0. Now you can see, first let me write that as it is. Now when I will open this bracket here, so this negative sign will change all the signs of the terms in the bracket. So this positive x cube will become negative x cube. Now this negative 6x square will become positive 6x square. That will be minus 12x, and that will be plus 8. So the negative sign simply change all the signs of the bracket values. Now further you can see what I have to do is simply find out the like terms here. So you can see, first let me take a look at the cube values. So here are the two cube values. If I just solve this, they will simply cancel out because one is of positive and another one is of negative. Now further, if I just take a look at the square values, so here are the two square values. So if I just solve this, so minus plus is minus, so that means 6 minus 4 is 2x square, and the sign will be of positive as the larger number is of positive. Now further, if I just take a look at the linear values, that means power 1 values, so they will simply, if I just solve these, that will be minus minus plus, so 12x plus x will be 13x, and that will be of minus. Now further, if I just take a look at the constant terms here, so 1 plus 8 is simply 9, equal to 0. Now this is the resultant solution that I have reached by simplifying this. Now if I just compare it with the standard format, you can see here that the right hand side is 0 as here, and also the main thing that the highest power is 2 here, which resembles this quadratic equation. So is this a quadratic equation? Yes, because the highest power is 2. That's all. So students, I hope till now you all are able to check whether the given equation is a quadratic equation or not. Now what I will do is simply move one step further and take these kind of questions. In this particular question, you have to simply form a quadratic equation, as you can see here. So here's a verbal equation given to you, and you have to simply form a quadratic equation. That's all. So for that, you can see here that the area of a rectangular plot is 528 meters square. So here's a rectangular plot given to you, and the area of that is 528 meters square. Now further, you can see that the length, you can see here that the length of plot is one more than twice its breadth. So here you can see one thing clearly, that the length of the plot is given to you in the terms of breadth. So always what you have to do is assume the thing given after here. You can see that the length is given in the terms of breadth, so you have to suppose the breadth as x meters first. So let me write that. Let the breadth of plot be x meters. So you have to simply find out the length and breadth in this question. So I have supposed that the breadth of plot is x meters. Now you can see that the length is given to you as, so the length of plot is, now you can see here, is 1 more. So what is 1 more? Simply plus 1. Now plus 1, then the twice. Now you can see twice is simply 2 cross its breadth, and you all know that the breadth is x. Now you can see here the length is given to you as 1 more than twice its breadth, and the breadth is x. So if I just solve this, that will be 2 cross x is 2x plus 1. So this is the length, and x is simply the breadth here. Now I have extracted both the length and breadth. Now what I have to do is simply, you can see here that the area is given to you as 528. So area of plot, now you can see it is given to you. Given that area of plot is simply 528 meters square. Now you all know that the area of a rectangular plot is L cross B, equal to 528 meters square. That is given to you. Now what I will do is simply substitute these length and breadth in here. So what is length here? You can see that is 2x plus 1 in bracket. Multiply what is breadth here, that is x, equal to 528. Now what I will do is simply solve this. So to solve that, you have to multiply this x with both the bracket values. So x cross 2x is simply powers with add-on, that will be 2x square. Now if I just multiply x with 1 here, that will be simply x, equal to 528. Now remember a standard quadratic equation, that is ax squared plus bx plus c. Now you can see here that the right hand side is 0 here. So you have to do the same thing here. you have to transfer this right hand side term over to the left hand side. So the equation will be 2x square plus x minus 528. Now you can see here that this positive value will become negative after moving to the left hand side. Now this is the required quadratic equation that I have formed from the given verbal equation. So you have to simply just form a quadratic equation from the given thing here. That's all. So students, from the previous question, I hope you all understood that you have to first understand how to form a quadratic equation from the given verbal equation. So when you all able to make the quadratic equation from the given verbal equation, then I will move further and find out the solution to those quadratic equations. So first, I'm again taking an example of the similar kind of question that I have taken previously, and I will try to form a quadratic equation first. So here you can see that Rohan's mother is 26 years older than him. So here what is given to you is Rohan's mother's age in the terms of Rohan, as you can see. Now this him denote Rohan here. Getting the point? So his mother is saying that she is 26 years older than Rohan. Further, you can see that the product of their ages 3 years from now. So what is given to you is after 3 years. So moving in future here. So after 3 years, that the product of both Rohan's mother as well as Rohan ages is 360. Now further, we have to simply find out the Rohan's present age. Getting the point? So here you have to make a quadratic equation from which you can derive Rohan's present age. So you don't have to find out the Rohan's age, you have to simply form a quadratic equation first from which you can derive Rohan's present age. So what I will do is simply form a quadratic equation from this given thing. So you can first see, you have to suppose the Rohan's age as x years. Now you can see that the Rohan's mother age is given in the terms of Rohan. So I will suppose Rohan's age as x years. So for that, let the Rohan's present age. You always have to suppose present age. So Rohan's present age is x years. Getting my point? Now you can see further that according to question, the Rohan's mother age, present age, is equal to, now you can see 26 year older means plus 26 than the Rohan's age, and that is x. So her mother age will be x plus 26 years. Getting my point? Now further you can see that you have to move simply 3 years further. Now always remember, to move further from the present age, you have to simply add that amount of time. Now you can see here that you have to simply add 3 in both the present ages of Rohan as well as her mother. So if I just simply add the values, so according to question, you can see 3 years from now. So what will be their ages? So according to that, so Rohan's age will be simply after 3 years, what will be the age of Rohan? Plus 3 in the present age. There will be x plus 3. Getting my point? Now, similar kind of thing I will do with the mother. So there will be, so Rohan's mother age will be, simply add 3 in this present age. So x plus 26 plus 3 here. So if I just solve these constant terms, that will be, you can see here, 29. So this is the age of mother 3 years after. Getting my point? So I have extracted both the ages 3 years after of Rohan as well as her mother. Now you can see in the question that the product of their ages is simply 360 given to you. So first let me rub some space here. So if I just rub the question here, you can see so now what I will do is take the product of the ages 3 years after of both. So that will be x plus 3, you can see here, into this mother's age, that is x plus 29, equal to, it is given to you that the product is simply 360. Remember? Now you have to solve this bracket here. So to solve this, first you have to take this x and multiply it with the whole bracket. Now similar kind of thing, take plus 3 and multiply it with whole bracket equal to 360 given to you. Now multiply this x with both the terms in the bracket. Similarly multiply 3 with both the terms. So x cross x will be x squared. Now further x cross 29 is 29x. Further 3 cross x is 3x and 3 cross 29. So what is 3 cross 29? 3 9 to 27, 2 here, 3 to the 6, 7, 8, 87. So that will be plus 87 equals to 360. Getting my point? Now further you can see here that if I just move this right hand side over to the left hand side. Remember the quadratic equation standard form? You have to make the right hand side 0. So for that, the equation on the left hand side will be 3x plus 87 minus 360. Now this positive term will become negative equal to 0. So you can see here, if I just find out the like terms here, so you can see that the square value is only 1. So that will be as it is, that is x squared. Now further if I just took linear values here, so that will be 29 plus 3, 32 here. Now further if I just take a look at the like terms, constant terms here, so if you have to simply plus minus is minus, so you have to subtract 87 from 360. So that will be 3 here, and now 15 minus 8, 7, 273. So that will be of negative. You can see here, the larger number is of negative. So this is the required quadratic equation that you have formed from the given question to you. That's all. So students, here I am taking last example of the question based on how to form a quadratic equation. Then I will move further. Now in this particular question, again you have to form a quadratic equation from this given verbal equation. Now this particular equation is based on speed, distance and time. So before really jumping into this question, you have to be aware of the three relations of speed, distance and time. So the first relation I have to explain to you is the speed is equal to distance upon time. Now let me just explain you the relation between speed and time here. So you can see here that the speed and time are actually here in the inverse relation. So now you will ask, what is inverse relation? Now let me just explain you this inverse. Now if the speed of any object increases, then the time taken by the object will decrease. Or you can say if the speed decreases, then accordingly time will increase. So this is actually the inverse relation. So the next relation will be formed from this relation. If I just transfer this time over to the left hand side, so the second relation will be speed into time. Now this division value will be multiplied with speed here, so that will gain you distance here. So if you have to find out distance, you have to simply multiply speed and time. Now the third relation which I will form from the second equation, that will be if I just transfer this speed in the right hand side in the division, so you get time here. So what is time? It's simply distance upon speed. Getting my point? So these are the three relations that you have to keep in mind while solving question based on speed, distance and time. So students, now you are aware of the three relations between speed, distance and time. So let's really jump into the question here. Now in this question, it is given to you that a train travels a distance of 480 kilometers at a uniform speed. So a train is traveling a distance of 480 kilometers with a fixed amount of speed. Now till now I don't know the speed, so let me read further here. So if the speed had been 8 kilometers less, then it would have taken 3 hours more to cover the same distance. So if this train decreases its speed by 8 kilometers per hour, then the same train will travel the same distance in 3 hours more. Getting my point? So it will take simply 3 hours more to travel the same 480 kilometers distance. Now simply what we have to find out is the speed of the train. So in this question we don't know the speed of the train. So first let me assume the speed of the train be x kilometers per hour. Getting my point? So let me write that let the speed of the train be x kilometers per hour. So this is the first step. Now moving further, you can also see that the distance given to you is 480 kilometers. The distance of route, you can say, is 480 kilometers. Now we have known to the speed and distance. So the remaining thing is time here. So you all know that the relation between time and speed is simply distance upon speed. Getting my point? So if I just substitute the speed and distance here, so the time will be, so time taken by train to travel 480 kilometers at speed of, now you can see the speed is x kilometer per hour is, you can see distance is 480 upon speed is x. So this is the time taken by the train when it was traveling with the speed of x kilometer per hour. Now you can see if the speed decreases by this amount of time, that is 8 kilometer per hour, then the same train will take 3 hours more to travel the same distance. So you can see time taken, let me just write, time taken, again let me write it clear, taken by train to travel same distance when speed is 8 kilometer per hour less. Now you all know time is represented by distance upon speed. So distance is same here. So that is 480 kilometers. Now you can see the speed actually decreased by 8 kilometer per hour. Now the initial speed is x, you can see here. Now if this speed decreased by 8 kilometer per hour, that is minus 8. So this is the time taken by the train when the train retards by 8 kilometer per hour. Getting my point? Now I have extracted both the values here. Now you can see it has taken 3 hours more. Now at what time the train taken 3 hours more? Then you can see here when the speed decreased. So let me represent that. So first let me make some space here. So if I just rub this question here. So students, it was given in the question that time taken by the train when the speed decreases by 8 km per hour is 3 hours more. That means plus 3. Then the time taken by the train when the speed was x km per hour. So this is the relation that we have formed from the given verbal equation. Now we have to simply solve this. Now to solve this, let me first move this term over to the left hand side so that the like terms are on the one side. So there will be 480 upon x minus 8. Now this positive term will become negative. There will be minus 480 over x equal to 3. Now you have to simply take LCM here. For LCM, you can see here, so LCM will be here x bracket x minus 8. Now to solve this LCM of algebraic values, you have to take a look at this x minus 8 value. Now to make this x minus 8, x bracket x minus 8, by which number you should multiply it? So you can see here this x minus 8 is already present there. So what is remaining? That is x. Now take this x here and multiply it with this numerator. So 480 cross x will be 480x. Getting my point? Now take the next denominator, that is x, by which number you should multiply this x to get this x bracket x minus 8. Now you can see this x is already present there. So what is remaining? That is x minus 8. Now take this x minus 8 and multiply it with numerator. So 480 cross x minus 8 will be simply 480 bracket x minus 8. Now this negative sign will be as it is, equal to 3. Getting my point? So you have taken the LCM correctly here. Now further is, if I take a look here, then you have to solve this. You can see you have to multiply this 480 with the bracket values. So that will be now 480x minus, if I multiply 480 with x, that will be 480x. Now further, minus minus will be plus. Now I have to multiply 480 with 8. So what is 480 cross 8? So that will be 8, 8 is 64, 6 here. Now 8 for 32 plus 6, 38, 3840. Upon, you can see here, if I multiply these here, so that will be x cross x is x square. Now further, if I multiply x with 8 here, so that will be 8x equal to 3. Getting my point? Now you can see that these values will cancel out. They are same. Now what will the remaining is 3840 in the numerator. Now I will transfer this denominator over to the right hand side. So they will multiply. So 3 bracket x square minus 8x. Right? Now if I just multiply this with both values, so that will be 3x square minus 3 8 is 24, that is 24x. Now this 3840 will be as it is. Now if I just transfer this left hand side value over to the right hand side, so the left hand side will become 0, so that will be 3x square minus 24x. Now this 3840 of positive will become minus 3840. Now you can also write this 0 over to the right hand side, so they will make no change. Now this is the required quadratic equation that we were looking for. So now you understand how to form an equation from the given verbal equation. That's all. Now I will move further and try to show you the questions in which you have to solve the question and find out the required roots. That's all. So students, I hope you all now not only able to identify whether the given equation is a quadratic equation, but also you are able to form a quadratic equation from a given verbal equation. I've also told you about the roots of a quadratic equation in the previous introduction video. Now let's move one step further here and discuss the core of this chapter. Now here the basic thing is we have to simply find out the roots of a quadratic equation. Now there are three methods which we are going to discuss in this chapter. The first method is factorization method. So the first method is simply factorization method. The second one is quadratic formula. And the third one is completing the square. So these are the three methods which we are going to discuss in this chapter to find out the roots of a quadratic equation. So firstly, I'm going to discuss the factorization method to find out the roots of a quadratic equation. Now here, an equation is given to you and you have to find out the roots of this equation by this method. So first step in this factorization method is, first you have to check out whether the given equation is in the standard format or not. Now you can see here that the right hand side is 0 and the highest power is 2. So this is a standard quadratic equation. Moving further, the second step in the factorization method is that you have to simply split the middle term here. So thereby you are making factors of this left hand side equation, and after getting the factors you have to simply put those factors equal to 0 and bring out the roots. So doing the same here, the first step to split this middle term is multiply the coefficient of x square by the constant term here, that is 10. So 1 cross 10 is simply 10 here. Now the next step is that you have to simply break this 10 in two numbers so that the multiplication is 10 and the addition or subtraction should have to be this middle term, that is minus 3x. Getting my point? Now you can easily conclude that if I just multiply 5 and 2, then 5 cross 2 is simply 10. But first let me check out whether addition or subtraction of these two numbers is 3 or not. So if I just simply subtract 2 from 5, so that will bring me 3. Now the thing is this negative sign here. So to bring this negative sign here, if I just take the larger number as negative and the smaller number as positive, so minus plus will be minus, so 5 minus 2 will be 3, and the larger number is of negative sign, so this minus 3x will come. So if I just place x with both the numbers, so these are the two numbers that we were looking forward for. So the thing is, I have split this minus 3x into minus 5x plus 2x, right? That will bring me this middle term. Now the next step is I will write the other terms as it is. So that will be x squared minus 10 equal to 0. So now the next step is you have to take common from the first two terms here. Now you can clearly see that the power of x is 2 here, the power of x is 1 here. So simply 1x is common from both the terms. So if I just take x common from both the terms, the remaining will be 1x and this 5. Further, you have to take something common from the next two terms so that the remaining is again x minus 5. So what I should take common from these two terms? You can see clearly that 2 and 10 are multiples of 2. So there's 2 common here. So if I just take 2 common, the remaining will be x, and at the table of 2, this 10 goes on 5 equals to 0. So this is how now I can take x minus 5 common from both the terms. So if I just take x minus 5 common here, the remaining will be this x plus 2. So here are the two factors that we have derived from this equation. Now the next step is put these factors equal to 0. So doing the same here, that will be x minus 5 equal to 0 and x plus 2 equal to 0. The next step is transfer this minus 5 over to the right hand side. That will bring you the first root, that is x equals to 5. Doing the same with this one, if I just transfer this plus 2 over to the right hand side, that will bring you minus 2. So this is the second root that we were looking for. So this is how you can find out the roots of a quadratic equation by factorization method. That's all. So students, now I'm taking one more equation here and try to solve it by factorization method to find out the roots, so that it will be easy for you to apply this factorization method. So here I'm taking one more equation. The first thing that you will notice here is this square root values. So before moving on to this equation, first let me explain you a basic thing, and that is multiplication of square root values. Now if I multiply root 2 and root 2, so that will be simply 2 here. Now you can see here, if I multiply similar square root values, then that value will simply come outside. Getting my point? By this I mean to say, if I multiply root 3 cross root 3, that will bring me 3. But if I just simply take two different square root values, that is like if I take root 3 cross root 2, that will be simply root 6. Now you can see here, these values will get multiplied, but the square root will still exist. So now, moving on to this equation here, we have to simply split the middle term here. And for that, you all know you have to multiply the coefficient of x squared by the constant term here. So if I multiply simply root 2 and 5 root 2, so that will be, you can see, root 2 cross root 2 is 2. So 2 cross 5, that will be 10. Now the next thing is, you have to simply break this 10 in two numbers so that the multiplication is 10, but the addition or subtraction should have to be this middle term, that is 7x. Now again, if I have to take two numbers so that the multiplication is 10 and addition or subtraction should have to be 7. Now if I take 5 and 2 here, so 5 cross 2 is 10, but let me check whether the addition or subtraction of these two numbers is 7 or not. So if I just simply add 5 and 2, that will bring me 7. So let me place x here. So these are the two numbers that we were looking forward for. So you can simply split this 7x in two numbers, that is 5x plus 2x, right? Next thing is, I will write down both the other terms as it is. So that will be root 2 x squared and 5 root 2 equal to 0. Now, next thing is, you have to take something common from the first two terms. Now, taking a look at the numeric values, so there's nothing common in root 2 and 5. So let me just concentrate on the power of x. So here the power of x is 2, here the power of x is 1. So 1x is simply common from both the terms. So if I just take x common from both the terms, the remaining will be this root 2 and 1x, then plus 5, as this x is already outside. Further, you have to again take something common from the next two terms, so the remaining is again root 2x plus 5. So what I should take common from these two terms here? So you can see, if I can write this 2 as root 2 cross root 2, so that will make no change. And further, there is 5 root 2. Now you can see here clearly that this root 2 is simply common. So if I just take root 2 common here, the remaining will be root 2x plus this 5 here. So finally, now I can easily take root 2x plus 5 common here. So if I just take root 2x plus 5 common here, so the remaining will be simply x plus root 2 equal to 0. Further, we have got the factors here. We have to simply put these factors equal to 0. So that will be root 2x plus 5 equal to 0, as well x plus root 2 equal to 0. Next step is transfer this plus 5 over to the right hand side. That will bring you root 2x equal to minus 5. Further, if you transfer this plus root 2 over to the right hand side, that will bring you x equals to minus root 2. So this is the first root, and the further, if I just transfer this coefficient of x in the denominator of minus 5, that will bring you second root as minus 5 over root 2. So this is how you can simply conclude two roots by applying factorization method over this equation. That's all. So students, now I'm taking last example of finding out the roots of an equation by factorization method. Then I will move forward to the next type of questions. So here you can see here that I have taken an equation. Now the difference from the previous equations that I have taken here is this denominator 8. So to solve this kind of equation, you have to first put 1 over 2x squared and x. So you can see that you can take LCM of 1, 1 and 8. That will be simply 8. Getting my point? Now, if I just have to take LCM here, now you can see at the table of 1 here, this 8 goes on 8. So multiply this 2x squared with 8, that will be 16x squared. Now, similarly, at this table of 1, this 8 goes on 8. So multiply 8 with this x, that will bring you 8x. Further, at the table of 8, this 8 goes on 1. So multiply this 1 with this 1, that will be 1 cross 1 is 1. Getting my point? Next step is transfer this 8 over to the right hand side. So 8 cross 0, that will be 0. Now, write this term here as it is. So that will be 16x squared minus 8x plus 1. Now, this is kind of a standard quadratic equation. Now, what you have to do is simply split the middle term here. And for that, you have to simply multiply this 16 with this constant term 1. So you can see 16 cross 1 is simply 16. So you have to break this 16 in two numbers so that the multiplication is 16, but the addition or subtraction should have to be this middle term, that is minus 8x. So you have to take two numbers. So if I just simply take 4 and 4, so 4 cross 4 is 16, but first let me check out whether the addition or subtraction of this numbers is 8 or not. So you can see here clearly 4 plus 4 is simply 8. But what about the sign here? If I just take both the numbers as negative, then minus minus will plus, that will bring you 8. And both the numbers are negative, so that will bring you this negative sign here. So let me just place x here. So these are the two numbers. Let me just split this minus 8x as minus 4x minus 4x. Now let me write these values as it is. So that will be 16x squared and plus 1 equal to 0. Right? So let me just take a look over these two terms. So what is common here? If I just take at the numeric values here, so 16 and 4 are the multiple of 4. So 4 is common. So let me just take a look at the powers of x. So here the power of x is 2, here the power of x is 1. So 1x is simply common. So completely 4x is common in these two terms. So if I just take 4x common, so the remaining will be simply, at the table of 4, the 16 goes on 4 and 1x is common. Further, if I just take 4x common, so the remaining will be simply 1. Now, next step is, you have to take something common from the next two terms, so that the remaining is again this 4x minus 1. Right? So what is common in these two terms? So you can see here pretty much that these numbers are similar, but the difference is the sign here. This negative is positive here, this positive is negative. So if I just simply take minus 1 common, so that will bring you this 4x minus 1 equal to 0. Now, you can see clearly that 4x minus 1 is common here. So if I just take 4x minus 1 common from these two terms, so the remaining will be simply 4x minus 1. So you can see here that both the factors are similar. That means you are going to get the similar roots. So if I just place these factors 1 by 1 equal to 0, so that will be 4x minus 1 equal to 0 and 4x minus 1 equal to 0. So if I just transfer this minus 1 over to the right hand side, that will bring you 4x equal to 1. Now transfer this coefficient 4 in the denominator, that will bring you the first root, that is 1 by 4. Right? And now similarly, you will again get the similar root like 1 by 4. Let me just write it clear. So that will be 1 by 4. So this is how you are going to find out the roots of a quadratic equation by factorization method. That's all. So students, moving forward to the second method by which you can find out the roots of a quadratic equation easily, that method is quadratic formula. and this formula says x equal to minus b plus minus under root b square minus 4ac over 2a. Now this b square minus 4ac represents capital D. So to find out the value of D, you have to calculate b square minus 4ac. Further, before moving to find out the roots of a quadratic equation, first you have to know about the nature of roots here. So there are three nature of roots depending on the value of this D. So the first case is when the value of D is less than 0, then both the roots of a quadratic equation are going to be imaginary. Or you can say not real. The second case is when the value of capital D is equal to 0, then both the roots are going to be real and equal. And the last case is when the value of capital D is greater than 0, then both the roots are real and distinct. So in this chapter, we are not going to discuss imaginary roots. That means we have to stick with these two cases. That means if the roots are going to be real, only then we are going to find out the roots by this formula. If the roots are imaginary, then we are not going to find out the roots by this formula. So firstly, let me find out the value of capital D for this equation. And for that, you have to compare this equation by the standard format. That is ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0. Now, you can easily extract the values of a, b and c here. So you can see the value of a is 2, the value of b is minus 7 and c is equal to 3. Now substituting these values in the formula here, so that will bring me this d as b square. That means minus 7 square minus 4ac. That means 4 into a, at the place of a there is 2 and at c there is 3. So if I just solve this, so minus 7 square will be 49. Now further, if I just multiply this, so 4 cross 2 is 8, 8 cross 3 is 24. Now if I just subtract this, that will be 25. So you can see here clearly that the value of D is greater than 0. That means roots are real. So we will find out the roots of this equation further. And for that, first let me rub the space here. So you can see the formula for finding out the roots is this. So that will be, I will substitute the values of a, b and c here into the formula. So this minus b, now the minus sign is in the formula. So let me just first take that. Now at the place of b, I will substitute minus 7. Further plus minus under root. Now this b square minus 4ac, that is capital D, is already been calculated by me as 25. So let me place this as it is. Further 2a means 2 cross a, and at the place of a, I will substitute 2. Further, if I just solve this, so minus minus is plus, so that will be 7 plus minus. Now root 25 is simply 5. You all know. So if I just place 5 here, so 2 cross 2 is 4. Now this plus minus sign says there are two roots. One is of plus and the other one is of minus. So if I just take 2, so that will be 7 plus 5 over 4, and the other one will be 7 minus 5 over 4. Now if I just solve this, so 7 plus 5 will be 12 over 4. Now if I just reduce this, so 4 3s are 12, so one root is 3 here. Further, to solve this, you can see here 7 minus 5 is 2 over 4. Now if I reduce this, that will get me 1 by 2. So here are the two roots that we were looking forward for. We can find out the roots by quadratic formula here. That's all. So students, now I'm taking one more equation here and try to solve it by quadratic formula, so that will be easy for you to apply quadratic formula to finding out the roots. So here another equation is there. So you can see to find out the roots of this equation, firstly we have to find out the nature of roots, and for that you have to simply calculate D. So doing the same, first let me compare this equation by the standard format to get out the values of A, B and C. So here the value of A is 4, further B is equal to 4 root 3 and C is simply 3 here. Now calculating D here, that is B square minus 4AC. Now substituting these values in this formula, that will be B square is simply 4 root 3 square minus 4ac means 4 into a is 4 and c is 3. Now 4 square, let me just tell you how to solve this value. Now you can see here that 4 root 3 square will be 4 root 3 into 4 root 3. That means you have to multiply this twice. So you can see 4 cross 4 is 16. Now I already told you that root 3 cross root 3 will be simply 3. So 16 cross 3, that will be 48. So further, let me write 48 beneath this. You have to simply multiply these. So 4 cross 4 is 16. 16 cross 3 is 48. Now you can see 48 and we'll cancel out, that will bring d as 0 here. Now you all know when d is equal to 0, then both the roots of a quadratic equation are real and equal. That means we are going to find out the roots of this equation. So for that, first let me rub this. Now you all know the quadratic formula, and that is x equals to minus b plus minus under root b square minus 4ac over 2a. Now I will substitute the values of a, b and c into this. So that will be minus b. Now this minus will be as it is, and at the place of b I will substitute 4 root 3. Further this plus minus under root. Now this is capital D and I have already calculated it as 0. So we will place 0, then there's no need to place this 0 at the place of this. Further over 2a, there will be 2 cross a, and at the place of a there is 4, right? So that will be minus 4 root 3 over 2 cross 4 is simply 8. So this is, you can see here, the similar roots that will be going to exist. As you can see, here are equal roots. So the other root will be as it is, that is minus 4 root 3 over 8. You can also reduce these values. So that will be 4 to 8 here. So the roots can also be written as minus root 3 by 2 and minus root 3 by 2. So these are the two roots that we were looking forward for. That's all. That's all. So students, moving forward to the third and last method for finding out the roots of a quadratic equation, and that is completing the square method. Now I will explain you this method and try to find out the roots of this equation. Now moving on to this method here. Now in this particular method, the first step that you have to apply is simply make the coefficient of x square 1. And for that, you can see that here the coefficient of x square is 2. Then what we have to do is simply take this coefficient common from the whole term. And by that I mean to say, when we are taking something common from the whole equation here, then what we are doing is simply dividing each term by that number. So if I just say that, that will be like this. Getting my point? Now I have divided each term here by that number which I have taken common here. Now the next step is transfer this number over to the right hand side, and that will be 0 upon 2, that is simply 0. So no need to write that. Now further, you have to simply solve this. Now you can see they will cancel out and the remaining will be x square. Further it will be minus 7x by 2 and 3 by 2. Now the next step is, now you can see here I have made the coefficient of x square 1 here. That was our motto. Now further, what you have to do is simply take this middle term here, and that is minus 7 by 2. Getting my point? I'm taking the numeric part here. So next step is, also you no need to take the sign here. Now next step is simply half this number, and for that I am multiplying this number by 1 by 2. Now that will be 7 cross 1 is 7, 2 cross 2 is 4. Now take this number, square it, simply add and subtract it from this equation. This is the second step, right? So doing the same here, so that will be x squared minus 7x by 2. First let me write this. Now plus 7 by 4 squared minus 7 by 4 squared. I have simply added and as well as subtracted the square of the half of the middle term. This is the second step. Now further you can see here plus 3 by 2 will be as it is. Now let me just make some space here so it can be easy for you to understand. So you can see now we are here. Now these three terms are actually structure of a minus b whole square. But how? Now you can see here this is simply a square. So let me write that. Now further it is b square, and this middle term is actually minus 2ab. Now you will say how this term is minus 2ab. You can see if I just place a as simply x and further b as 7 by 4. Now if I just solve this, so that will bring me 7x by 2, that is middle term. So this whole structure is simply a minus b whole square. So applying the same here, so that will be x minus 7 by 4. You can see here a minus b whole square. Further, if I just simplify this, so 7 square is simply 7 cross 7, that is 49, and 4 square is 16. So further, plus 3 by 2 equal to 0. Now, the next step is you have to simply transfer these terms over to the right hand side. So that will be x minus 7 by 4 whole square equal to, now this negative term will become positive, so that will be 49 over 16, and this positive term will become negative here. So further, if I just take LCM of these, so that will be 16. Now, to solve this LCM, you can see at the table of 16, the 16 goes on 1, so 1 cross 49 is simply 49. Further, at the table of 2, the 16 goes on 8, so 8 cross 3 is 24. Now this x minus 7 by 4 whole square. Getting my point? Further, you can see if I just subtract this, so that will be 25 over 16. So let me write this as it is. So that will be like whole square. Now, next step is you have to simply transfer this square, and then on the right hand side that will be square root. So doing the same, so that will be like x minus 7 by 4 under root 25 over 16. Getting my point? Now first let me rub the space here so you can understand it easily. So students, moving from here, you can see that is x minus 7 by 4 equal to, now you can see under root 25 is simply 5 and under root 16 is 4. Right? Now, next step is when something comes out of square root, then that value is simply positive as well as negative. Now, there are two roots as you can see, one is of positive and one is of negative. So doing the same here, so that will be x minus 7 by 4 equal to plus 5 by 4, and the other one is x minus 7 by 4 equal to minus 5 by 4. Now solving these, you can see if I just transfer this minus 7 by 4, so that will be plus 7 by 4 on the right hand side. So that will be plus 7 by 4. Doing the same thing here, if I just transfer this, so that will be x equal to minus 5 by 4 plus 7 by 4. Now further, if I just solve this, so if taking the LCM 4 here, so that will be simply 5 plus 7. As the LCM is same here, so that will be simply the numerator addition. So further, if I just solve this, so denominator is 4, so that will be minus 5 plus 7. Now if I just add this, so that will be 12 over 4. Now reducing the term, 4 3 is 12. So that will bring me x 3. So further, if I just minus plus is minus, so 7 minus 5 is 2, and the sign will be of positive over 4 here. So if I just reduce this, so that will bring me 1 by 2. So these are the two roots that we were looking for. So this is how we have to simply apply. So students, now I'm taking one last equation and try to find out the roots of that equation by completing the square method, so that it will be easy for you to apply this method. Now this is the equation given to you. Now the first step, remember, you have to simply make this coefficient of x square 1, and for that you have to simply take this 4 common from this whole equation. So that will be 4x square over 4, further 4 root 3x over 4 plus 3 over 4 equal to 0. Now transfer this 4 over to the right hand side, so that will be 0 over 4, that is simply 0. Now if I just simplify this, so they will cancel out, so the remaining is x square plus root 3x plus 3 by 4 equal to 0. Now the next step was take this middle term here and simply half it. So I multiplied by half, so root 3 cross 1 is root 3 over 2. Now square this and simply add as well as subtract it from this equation. So doing the same, that will be like x square plus root 3x. Now first I'm adding this number, so plus root 3 by 2 whole square. Further I'm subtracting it, minus root 3 by 2 whole square. Then further there is plus 3 by 4 as it is, equal to 0. Now we are here. Now next step is, first let me rub this area here. So that will be like, you can see here, these three terms. Remember the previous question? Here was negative. So they was making a minus b whole square. Now here it is positive. So these three terms are making a plus b whole square structure. But how? You can see this is a square, so let me write that. Further, this is b square, and this middle term is plus 2ab. Now, how you will say? So let me just describe that. So if at the place of a I place x, and at the place of b I place root 3 by 2. So that will be like root 3x, that is the middle term. So this whole structure is of a plus b whole square. So applying the same here, so that will be like a plus b, and at the place of b there is root 3 by 2 whole square. So this is a plus b whole square. Further, if I just open the square here, so root 3 square is simply root 3 cross root 3, that is 3. So that will be 3 over 2 square is simply 4, and plus 3 by 4 equal to 0. So let me just rub it clear here. Now you can see they will cancel out simply. So that will be x plus root 3 over 2 whole square equal to 0. Now we are here. Now you can see a plus b whole square equal to 0. Now next step is, you can see the right hand side is 0. So there are going to be similar roots as the right hand side is 0. So if I just place it twice, that means a plus b whole square. So that will be like this. Now transfer both the terms over to the right hand side. So that will bring you two roots. That is x equal to minus root 3 by 2 and x equal to minus root 3 by 2. So these are the two roots that we were looking forward for. Now remember how to solve the whole area here? That's all.